McTominay is probably obviously going to be
Oh,
their.
he's unbelievable.
He's
had a
Every week in
fantastic
Serie A, he
season
does
he's
something
have
special.
he's
for
ha-
Serie A.
he's
Two
had a
seasons now.
he has a fantastic two
Yeah.
seasons, right? And
Yep.
Salah has been quite shocking this entire season. You could blame it on the manager, you could blame it on age, you could just blame it on his legs going. Something is very off, and you don't shake off that type of offness that quickly. He's looked off the entire season.
You've got
Yeah,
Richard Rios, you've got John Duran, you've got,
yeah,
like you mentioned, Luis Diaz, you've got Davinson Sanchez. You
Oh,
have a lot of
forgot
quality
John
in that
Duran,
team.
of course.
yeah.
John Duran from
And
Saudi
he
who
went to
left
Saudi,
Villa.
yeah. Daniel Munoz,
Yeah.
of course, very familiar name. He's
Munoz, of
got a lot
course,
of
for
quality.
Palace. Welcome to the Dugout at DawnNews English with me, Izzy, and Mustafa. We continue our World Cup preview. All right, gentlemen, Belgium. So this was the team, the golden generation, of course, 2018, reached the semifinals. But then not a very successful 2022, obviously also semifinalists in 86. Rudy Garcia, ex of Napoli, after he fantastically flopped at Napoli, is now their manager. The end of the golden generation, they're in Group G with Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Very talented team, still has Doku, Fofana at Lyon, is a hot name in Europe.
Trossard, Tielemans,
Trossard,
Onana,
Tielemans
yeah,
for
like you
Villa, and of
mentioned.
course KDB still playing for them.
Yeah.
Where do we see Belgium? Obviously, their window has closed to actually win something. I think their time was 18 to 22.
Yeah.
They should have at least won a Euros, if anything. But what do we think is happening to Belgium?
18 was the year for me, and I still think they have some really good players. Like Doku is one, Courtois is one, but
Ketelar, I love him, man. He's a very good player.
Tielemans is also a very decent player. They have a
Very good player.
yeah, they also, I think now we are in a very much a transition phase for them, because from the old guard to the new guard, because you have this new guard of Onana, Doku, and Lemons, who's eventually going to take over at the next World Cup, right? And you have all these old, like not old, but like like calling a
Trossard
34.
is in his prime, you could say.
Yeah, but like calling a 34-year-old old is kind of insulting unless you're a football player, right? In KDB and Lukaku and all these guys, right? But like this is basically a transition. This is a transition World Cup, if you want to say it, right? This is a very much a passing of the torch type situation, where you have to look at Doku to be the main guy and stuff like that.
I think they should still manage to overhaul this group quite easily, relatively.
Yeah,
I think with Egypt, Iran, New Zealand, they should be fine. They'll top the table eventually, I feel.
No, I think they'll top the table. I think they should easily get out of this group. Egypt is their only real competition.
Yeah,
right?
they should be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about them. All right, moving on. Let's go to Scotland. I didn't know this until I was researching. Scotland has never reached the knockouts out of a World Cup. Isn't that amazing?
That's an
insane
They're not such
statistic.
a
I
great
know.
team, to be honest.
No, but Scottish football back in its heyday used to be, the Celtic has won in European
I remember
competitions.
they got to the
Rangers,
98
obviously,
World Cup when I
Aberdeen.
was a kid, but I don't
Did.
remember that
So
much.
they're in Group C with Brazil, Morocco, and Haiti. Obviously, Steve Clark, ex-assistant to Jose Mourinho in those fantastic teams for Chelsea, is their manager. McTominay, McGinn, Andy Roberts.
Jay Adams, who plays
Jay
in
Adams is
Italy,
their
the
striker.
same,
Yep. So they have skill and talent. What do you think?
That group sounds horrible.
Morocco is probably got more technical speed and flair as compared to the Scots, but they will be more pragmatic. They'll be more physical. I think if that's the crux game, Morocco, Scotland. If they can win that one, of course, Brazil is Brazil. So I think there is an outside chance. At least they could be the best third, probably, maybe.
Yeah, Brazil is still a gettable team. This Brazil squad is a gettable team.
Yeah, you could say so.
Yeah,
it is, and we'll come to Brazil. I thought it was interesting that he brought back, Don Carlo brought back Neymar back into the squad, but we'll get to them. Like you said, I think it's
the reaction with that. Wasn't that like understood he was going to play? What's the big deal? Like he's like crying all over the place. Why, bro? You were going to go.
There was a lot of rumors about him. Okay, but back to Scotland. McTominay is probably obviously going to be.
He's unbelievable.
He's
had
every
a fantastic
week
season.
He has a fantastic 2 seasons, right? And McGinn is obviously great as well because he's also led Aston.
What a goal he scored.
Villa,
Yeah,
yep.
he led Villa to a European Cup final. Obviously it's the
Robbo's got some juice maybe, but he might be
Do they
ending up
have
in the
enough
championship.
goals? Do they have enough goals? Che
No.
Adams? That's where I think they'll struggle. I don't think they can score
Yeah.
enough.
I think
You'll
they
see
have.
a lot of 0-0, one
Yeah,
ones
yeah. I think they
is
can.
what I think.
I think they can compete on the middle of the park. I think their midfield can stack up very.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, McTominay will keep running. So,
yeah,
all right, on to Egypt in Group G.
Mm.
with Bel with Belgium, Iran, and New Zealand. Round of 16 in 1934, if you guys didn't know. But this Egypt team is basically runs as Mo Salah goes. Salah obviously didn't have a good season with Liverpool, but they have Omar Marmoush,
yeah.
who
Mm.
last year was better for City. This year, not that great. They play at 3-5-2. AFCON, they were disappointing. I don't know what to make of this Egypt team. That Egypt-Iran game could be key as far as coming second in that group. Belgium should make it through, but let's see what happens.
They also Omar Marmoush is getting into a little bit of form. He scored a couple of goals in the last 4 or 5 game weeks in the Premier League. Uh, if I'm not, they lost to Senegal in a one when Mane scored that goal in the semi final. Let's be very honest. This team goes as Salah goes, and
Yep.
Salah has been quite shocking this entire season. You could blame it on the manager, you could blame it on age, you could just blame it on his legs going. Something is very off, and you don't shake off that type of offness that quickly. He's looked off the entire season.
They have a pretty stout defense with the likes of Khalid Soubeir there, and you have another guy I remember, Hamdi Fati. He's pretty decent as well. But like you mentioned, they don't concede a lot of goals, but scoring goals will perhaps be an issue. That's was like you mentioned, Salah and Marmoush. And Marmoush apparently linked to Barcelona to replace Lewandowski, so maybe he has a point to prove in the
I
summer
think
and
you'll
could
see
land himself a big
widespread.
big move.
I think you'll see a lot of changes in that City team this summer. All right,
Yeah.
let's move on to Ghana. This is a team with a lot
Mm.
of volatility with them. So obviously they're in Group L with England, Croatia, and Panama. They fired their coach, Otto Addo, just a couple weeks ago, basically 2 months before the World Cup. Semi-finalist in 2010. We remember that Suarez handball where he took a deliberate handball, got sent off, but then they missed a penalty. Um, Semenyo, obviously of City, he's had a pretty good season, and then that Leicester double of Jonathan Ayew and Fatawu up front, and of course Mohamed Kudus with Spurs. So they have a lot of talent. Carlos Queiroz, Mustafa, ex of Manchester United, but also ex of Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And
Ferguson's
Iran for a very, very long
and
time.
Iran,
Yeah.
yep, for a very experienced manager. They've brought him in to be the manager, but a lot of volatility there with Ghana.
Yeah, and also if I'm not wrong, Mohamed Kudus is injured as well for Spurs. So that's a blow to their because I think their strength is in their attack, and
Yeah, he should be
yeah,
back though,
They
they
got
think.
pace.
The
yeah,
yeah, they do have pace, but I don't let's see what happens with them.
yeah. It's
I think the crux game is with Croatia, right? If they can
yeah,
overcome them, then they should
yeah,
be fine against Panama.
yeah. Every
Correct. They should be, and they'll have the advantage in the midfield, obviously, with Kovacic and Modric in the Croatian midfield. You expect Ghana to at least physically be much better than them.
Yeah, you have Partey, you have Semenyo, you have Kudus, you have Ayew, so you have pretty decent pace on the flanks there. And Inaki Williams is good as well. So I think Ghana have a pretty strong shout of making it into the playoff stage of the World Cup. They should make it. It'd be a shock if they didn't make it.
so,
And Carlos Queiroz is so
Very
experienced
good
as a
man,
manager that
solid
that
man.
he can get a team together and playing together
Yeah,
within two
uh,
months.
also side note, I'm there's in my opinion there's no group of death in this
there are too many.
huh
Nobody has time to figure it out. It's too
yeah
many
yeah yeah.
groups.
There's too
There's a lot of groups with three teams.
yes
There's
that's
not a
what I'm
lot of
saying
good with four
Yeah.
solid
yeah
teams
yeah but
because of 48.
yeah, but there's a lot of teams where a good team can be knocked out. A very good team could be knocked out by being third, right? Like this is another group like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
All right, let's move on to Colombia. Of course, Colombia
Mm.
quarterfinalists in 2014 and 2018 in Group K with Portugal, Congo, and Uzbekistan. Luis Diaz, James Rodriguez. Of course, we all remember his wonderful goal in where he introduced himself to the world, and then Madrid bought him right after. Um, and a solid defense with Munoz, who's had a
Mm.
solid season with Palace, both last year and this year. Um, that group, they should be getting out of that group fairly comfortably over the Congo and Uzbekistan. I don't recall how they did in the last South American Nations League, um,
They got
but
so
your
uh,
thoughts?
in 24 they were the runners up. So in 2024 they were the runners up to Argentina. So they
There we go.
yeah, so they're a very decent side. Like they have Luis Diaz, who is still one of the best, who is a very good attacker for Europe. They have a very solid defense. They play a 4-2-3-1. They they'll probably be compact. They should not cruise through the
They
group,
have a
but
lot of quality areas. You've got
yeah,
Richard Rios, you've got John Duran, you've got,
yeah,
like you mentioned, Luis Diaz, you've got Davinson Sanchez. You
Oh,
have a lot of
forgot
quality
John
in that
Duran,
team.
of course.
yeah,
John Duran from
He
Saudi who
went to
left
Saudi,
Villa.
yeah. Daniel Munoz,
Yeah.
of course, very familiar name. You've
Munoz, of
got a lot
course,
of
for
quality. Yeah.
Palace. All right, Ecuador, Group E with Germany, the
Mm.
Curacao, and the Ivory Coast, round of 16 in 2006.
Doesn't
Packed
it seem
him.
like Ecuador are always playing Germany? I've
Yeah,
heard
I
this
know.
fixture many times in the
But
past
look
before.
at the players they have. Moises Caicedo, obviously for Chelsea, Estupinian, and for Brighton, Hincapié for Arsenal, who just won a title, and then Pacho and Kendi Paez. They have a very very good team. Um, this is another group where you have three teams with the Germans, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador, where it could the top of the group could go anywhere, and you hope that. Um, the team that comes second does the sorry the team that third comes third doesn't get knocked out, but this could happen.
yeah. And also like this is a very obvious, like they don't their attack is somewhat lacking, but they have such an immense back line, a center back partnership, and like defensive midfield setup. Like they probably have the best defensive midfielder in the world, right? And like this is going to be the one of the most annoying teams to break down. They are going to be so relentless,
And they're so
so
good at World Cup football. That's the
yeah,
best thing about them.
yeah. So like they because like in international football, the main thing you need to be is organized, right? And they know how to be like this team, and with these players, they know how to be organized. They have one of the best spines I can like at least I can see in this World Cup. At least in
And they
the
know how
like
to play three games and get the result they need. That's the most
exactly,
important thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Let's finish up our preview of Group D with Paraguay. Of course, we talked about the US, we talked about Turkey, we talked about Australia. Paraguay, of course, quarterfinalists in 2010. Miguel Almiron, ex-MLS, went to Newcastle. So back in the US, of course, Gomez, who's had a fantastic season for Brighton, and both at Aldrete and Enciso from the Premier
Mm.
League. Another team that could cause a rumble or two. You expect this is not going to be an easy game for the US. I was doing a deep dive into Paraguay, and I think the US fans certainly are taking them for granted
We
that
were
this is
talking
going to be
about
an
group
easy
of
three
death. This
points.
feels like a fun one, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the Australians are going to run and
Yeah,
very
Mm.
professional. Turkey, of course, has a lot of talent there. We've talked about them.
Yeah.
This is an interesting group, Group D.
and also like Paraguay, at least this Paraguay team, they mostly play in a 4-4-2 mid block. They are very annoying to break down. This is going to, especially for that US team, which
Paraguay's like historically been an annoying team from
yeah,
coming in
yeah,
from South America. They've never had that flair. They've always been, like the little brother to Uruguay, you could say.
yeah. But like considering what the American team is, where like their main like creative force is Christian Pulisic,
America, baby.
yeah, Captain America, bro. Uh, it's going to be very like it's going to be very hard to break down this team if because they've historically been a very organized team.
No, those are all
I
good points.
think
Let's go
there's
on.
there's going to be a lot of score draws everywhere in Group D here. It's
Yeah,
going to
I
be
Yeah,
see.
tight.
I see. You'll see a lot of 1-1s and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. We'll come to that. All right, let's move on to Uruguay then. Of course, two-time
Mm.
champions of the FIFA World Cup, both in the inaugural tournament in 1930 and, of course, Brazilian fans know this, the 1950 World Cup that was held in Brazil. Unfortunately, Uruguay won that. It's a different Uruguay team and an interesting group, Group H, with Spain, uh, Cape Verde that we talked about the other day, and of course the
What do we know about
Saudis.
Valverde's head injury?
that he has
Valverde should be
amnesia.
okay. He'll be, it's a mild concussion. He should be fine. Interestingly,
This is from all of
Bielsa.
us watching NFL like concussion. Yeah,
This
could
is,
be.
yeah, he'll be fine. But Marco Bielsa, of course, is their manager, ex of Leeds.
Ah,
So does
yeah,
this mad scientist that sits in front of the
Yeah.
dugout on a bucket. But you mentioned Valverde for Real Madrid. They have Darwin Nunez, ex of Liverpool,
yeah,
Facundo Pellistri, ex
Araujo's
of
there as
Manchester
well, good
United.
player.
Of course, Manuel Ugarte, of
Yeah.
currently of Manchester United, ex of PSG, and of course, Varela. It's a good team, Uruguay. They have a lot of talent there. They have a lot of players who are experienced playing at the highest levels.
It's
Spain,
not the
Uruguay is
Cavani Suarez
correct.
heyday
It's not
Caceres,
that
but it's not
correct,
bad.
but it's
It's okay.
still it's not bad. But that Spain Uruguay game should be one of the better games of
Ah,
the group stages.
there's gonna be blood on the pitch in that one. That is
yeah.
gonna be a ridiculous game.
Yeah, and also just like that. Yeah, because there's also the Madrid,
Yeah, the
Barca
fan factor.
rivalry getting in there as well.
Barca Madrid
Yeah,
angle against Valverde.
yeah, and then also I also want to say is that they were grouped in 22, which is the first
They
time that's
were.
happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
That which was the first time that's happened to them in 20 years,
It's an
right?
aging team though.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
That was
I'm
on the
not.
tail end of Suarez
Yeah.
and Cavani and
Suarez
stuff.
Yeah,
and all this guys.
yeah, yeah. But like but like they've always like they've been known to be a good World Cup team, right? So like this is semi
And
redemption.
masters of the dark arts. We mentioned
Yeah,
Ghana,
Mm.
how Suarez basically took a handball on purpose.
it's
They took a penalty, they missed a
One of the
penalty, and then
iconic World Cup moments, to be
I
yeah,
honest.
know.
yeah,
And
All
this
right.
this team is very much tailor-made in that kind of
yeah.
personality, in that kind of
It's
mindset.
it, it is a lot of Manchester
I would have
United.
liked the Uruguay-Spain game being earlier in the group, though. It's right at the end,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
Right at the
it should
end.
be
So
fine.
we'll
Yeah.
see. But Uruguay, again, a lot of Manchester United connections there. Speaking of Manchester United connections, let's go on to Austria. Of course, Austria managed by Ralph Ragnick, ex
Ah,
of
Mm.
interim manager of Manchester United, supposed to be the director of football, but then wasn't. Austria in Group J with Argentina and Jordan and Algeria, semi-finalists in 54 and 34. And again, decent players. Arnautovic, of course, we know. Sabitzer, again, ex of Manchester United. We remember his loan spell. Baumgartner, Wurmbrand, both of RB Leipzig. And
Janso is
these,
good. Limer is
yeah,
good.
Conrad Leimer, of course, in defense.
Mm.
And these Austrian players that RB Red Bull organization has basically created a pipeline for talent to the national team, and Ralph Ragnick seems to have got them meshed and molded well together. They qualified with ease. They could make some noise in this group. I think the our Algeria-Austria game is going to be key for one of those teams. Argentina should beat them, but this is not a vintage Argentina team as we
Yeah.
discussed earlier. So wouldn't surprise me if they top the group.
yeah. I don't know what exactly this. I think it's not that difficult group. They should be fine. I think they should very easily get to the knockout stages. And like
Yeah, they have plenty of talent, man. And if Arnautovic, he was always coined as the next Ibra, of course, never reached those levels,
Yeah.
even though he's been at various clubs, at various top clubs, at various leagues. But he's a technical striker. He's a goal scorer. He was a bad boy in his back in his time, but now he's matured. And maybe this could be the World Cup where he really, sets his team. Like statistically, I believe Arnautovic could have a good World Cup here.
oh, yeah, let's see what happens. Like I think this is not this is like one of the lower interesting, like one of the least interesting groups, I would say, because I feel like it's kind of
Algeria, Australia, Austria could be feisty. That could
I
be a
mean,
fun game.
Gianni Infantino would say all groups are interesting, 48 teams.
yeah.
Um, any other thoughts, gentlemen?
I we've done about 30 teams now or something like that.
Yep.
29, right? So we've gone through about half of the World Cup, exactly half of the field, I think, right? No,
Your
more
math
than
is bad.
More than
my
half.
math is really bad. More than half of the World Cup.
Clearly.
More than half of the World Cup. Uh, we are obviously coming to the point where like we've gone through a lot of them, and at least a third of the teams, I would say, at least 25% of the teams, I would say, it is very hard to come up with talking points for them to make reasonable.
To be
Uh,
fair, we haven't done the Giants yet, now, so let's see.
yeah, we haven't done the Giants yet, but we also
I
haven't.
mean, we've talked about Argentina, we
Yeah.
talked about Belgium, we talked about the
Uh,
US,
Netherlands,
we talked
I
about
mean,
the
Netherlands,
like, who are the
Netherlands.
best contenders? Spain, France, England.
Portugal. We did
Yeah,
Portugal.
Uh,
we did Portugal.
Portugal is not a contender. Come on, be
Spain,
serious.
France, and England are the only, and Brazil are the only four real contenders that we haven't. But we've done a
Mm.
bunch of the other ones. It's a
It's
it's a
gonna
very
be. I
wide
think we're
open
gonna have
World Cup.
two weird semifinalists this season. Two weird
Yeah,
ones. Not even
Yeah.
I
just
wouldn't
one.
be surprised if you end up at least in the quarters to have three out of the eight quarterfinalists as sort of
Shocks. Yeah, yeah.
not shocks but eyebrow raising. Um,
Mm.
Like,
it's
would you?
it's a very wide open World Cup, and I think the draw, how these teams sort of the
That's why
bigger
somebody
draw
like Austria could really catch people off
really
guard,
catch.
or an
Yep.
Asian team. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
the Koreans or Japan, they can really
No,
catch somebody off guard.
I could see Ecuador going far. Like I just like
And a hot goalkeeper. You remember in 1990
Yeah.
whereby Argentina basically won two penalty shootouts because their goalkeeper at the time just got hot. Nobody could put the ball past him in a semifinal.
Buffon
And
got
sorry,
hot
in,
in
in a
yeah.
penalty,
2006. Yeah.
correct, in a penalty shootout. Buffon
Yeah.
got hot. So
Emmy
you just don't
To
Martinez,
be
know.
fair, he was always hot.
Emmy Martinez to a certain extent at 22 as well.
Yeah. Emi
Correct.
Martinez. That save
Yeah,
on Colomwani.
yeah. So like yeah,
It
so
will be
like
interesting.
I think it's gonna be a. I still think it's gonna be a very fun World Cup because like it's
World
gonna be
Cups are
a
never bad. They're never
yeah.
bad.
World
Like
Cups are
they're
never
either
bad,
so
correct.
or amazing. They're never awful.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's true.
I'm just thinking will maybe be annoying and moan in doing a little bit of the group stages, but by the time the round of 32 happens and the round of 16 happens, we will all be in World Cup full fever, I think.
And I think for
Uh,
the sake of the global game, we need Brazil to have a good World Cup.
Yes,
yes, they
yes,
are due
It's been too long,
to
man.
have a
It's been
good
too
World
long.
Cup. It
yeah,
has
and
been a long time.
yes, and just a personal thing. I really do wish if we were talking last time about like who we think is going to be like who's going to
Mm.
take this World Cup and be like be their like
Yeah,
cornerstone
yeah, yeah.
essentially and like that. God, what a story it would be if Neymar finally brings a World Cup back to for Brazil. Like what a story it would be.
Would be a
I
great
just don't
story.
like the team around him. That's the problem.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's not a
But it would be fun.
vintage Selecao
Mm.
for sure.
yeah.
We'll talk about Neymar and other such players and other such teams in our next edition. Thank you, gentlemen.